Welcome to Comic Books and Chill, the home of the Stash Bros. I'm Mike, chilling with Chris.
What's up, Stash fam? Welcome to another show. We appreciate you tuning in. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy some more comic book content.
Today, we have Marvel's master host, master moderator, Angelique Roche with us today.
Ooh, Mike, I'm hyped. I can't wait to talk about all things Marvel with Angelique.
But before we chop it over Angelique, though, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment.
Let's get started.
All right, our next guest is supremely talented. She is the host of Marvel's Voices, the podcast. She has interviewed a gang of actors from the MCU.
Yes, she has.
She is also the author of the upcoming book, My Superhero Is Black. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stash Land, we bring to you one of the best voices of all of nerd media, Angelique Roche.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Can I just start to record that so I can wake up to that every single morning? Because I feel like who gets that kind of introduction? Like my heart is sparkling right
yes.
now. Like,
I love it.
Made my day.
Woo! I'm pumped. I'm glad you're pumped. We're about to dive in. So let's start with your superhero origin story. What was your entryway into comic book culture, nerddom? Was it books? Was it shows? Was it movies? Where did that begin?
So there are three places that I have realized are my start points, right? Into superhero genre, right? Because I always have been a nerd. I've always loved genre. I love movies. In fact, I was actually just in a documentary called Beyond Tomorrow, which talks about like 1980s sci-fi and how 1980s sci-fi actually changed sci-fi. Like it changed the whole game. Like I could talk for forever about 1980s sci-fi, which is my first origin story, actually. It's a little known, highly contested, not necessarily like cult movie that came out in the 1980s called Howard the Duck.
Oh, right? I love that movie. Yes.
As do I. And in fact, in my first interview with Marvel, they were like, how did you get introduced to Marvel? It's like, so Howard the Duck's my favorite movie, and I need you not to take it against me. It was an anthropomorphic duck, and I was a kid. So you have to understand, I didn't get everything that was going on in Howard the Duck. But I don't care. I still have watched it as an adult. Still love it. It's still campy and amazing and great. My first comic book happened the same year that I got introduced to the X-Men animated, and my future brother-in-law introduced me to X-Men comics. Ooh. So a little known comic book called The Death of Superman came out in the early 90s. And my father, and I will always remember this, you know, you don't remember a lot of things as a kid, but there are certain things that like really stick with you. You know, my dad hands me this thing and he's like being very like cautious about it. And he's like, look, as I open it up and he goes, look, I couldn't afford comic books as a kid, but I saw this. It was basically saw it at Toys R Us or like another toy store. But I saw this and I felt like it was important. And to this day, I still have that copy. It's the trade paperback of The Death of Superman. You know, I'd play video games, eat a lot of pizza, and then my now brother-in-law had a crate. He had a milk crate full of comic books, including the X-Men. And of course, I mean, at this point in time, if you were a child at this time and you had a television and your parents let you watch cartoons, you had seen the X-Men animated show.
Absolutely.
And for me,
yes.
Being from Louisiana, I was like, there's a Cajun on this show? Do you have a Cajun on this show? Oh, there's a girl from the South on this show? Who is this black lady? Like, so I was instantly, I love cartoons to this day, like you name it, Hanna-Barbera, Snorks, Smurfs, like I love animated. And so you give me, you know, X-Men and the Batman animated, because also my other favorite forever will be Harley Quinn.
You're talking about the best things ever.
See her over there in the corner.
Angelique, you've interviewed pretty much all the actors of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Can you let us know which is your favorite to interview and why?
Oh, this is hard. Come on.
We're gonna let you off easy now.
Questions. I have different reasons why I love them all. I've had the privilege of not just interviewing a number of folks who have appeared in many movies, including, Marvel Studios movies. I mean, they have had other careers, particularly other sci-fi careers, many of them.
Yes.
And I've also had the privilege of being some of their first Comic-Con interviews.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that's awesome.
That has actually been kind of wild for me. When you're talking about people like Josh Brolin, when you're talking about folks like Tessa Thompson, when you're talking about folks like Don Cheadle, like they really haven't done long form Comic-Con interviews like Michael Fassbender. And I remember and everybody's different. Everybody's got their different approach. It's really interesting because like Josh Brolin, I will always remember this. Josh, you are an amazing human being. If you ever see this, it's so much fun to interview. I've interviewed him twice. And, he had looked me up before the interview. And so he walks in, we're in the green room and he's like, "You're Angelique." And I'm like, yes, I am. How did you know? He's like, "Yeah, I looked you up on your LinkedIn and I got through your LinkedIn. And at a certain point, I was like, she's gone to a lot of school. I've read enough. I felt like this is important. Really, I should know who you are." And I'm like, and Tom Hiddleston did the same thing, right? It's right after New York Comic-Con. I'm in Chicago for Ace Comic-Con and I'm sitting in the green room and I'm mad nervous, right? Because I'm interviewing a Doctor Who, I'm interviewing, Captain America. I'm doing all of these different interviews for the first time. And if anybody understands, there are different types of interviews, right? There's junket interviews, right? So there's my Whoopi Goldberg interview where they're like, "You got 2 minutes." And then there's the long form interview, which really is storytelling. I gotta say, one of my favorites, and I love Tom Ellis, by the way, who was also that weekend because I'm a huge Lucifer fan. Taron Egerton, I believe, was that next time. Absolutely amazing. But it was Tom Hiddleston that was the first one that eased it for me because he walks into the green room. He goes, "Oh, you must be Angelique." And I'm like, "I'm Tom." And I'm like, "I know." "You do know I know who you are, though." And then I realized he was just being uberly polite, right? And his interviews are just so delightful and fun, and he has so much intention and remembers literally everyone, right? When you talk to folks like that, it's so incredible because there's so much intent that they bring to the conversation. And so, do I have a favorite? No. Do I have memorable ones like Chris Evans jumping off a stage to go pet a dog and then Don Cheadle and Jeremy Renner just walking off because Chris is cussing? Yeah, right. And I think I've just had some really incredible moments with a lot of these folks in so many different ways, right? Because they represent so many different fandoms. I've interviewed people from The Walking Dead. I've interviewed people from Game of Thrones. I've interviewed folks from A Brave New World who are also in one of my, let me tell you, favorite, the originals, because I love a good vampire story. And, when it comes down to the MCU, you have these, I think I have favorite moments, like Taika Waititi getting asked a question and being like, "It's time to dance off because I'm not going to answer this because of an NDA," right? And suddenly you become a GIF. Or you have Rosario Dawson photobombing in the middle of your interview with Alfre Woodard and Simone Missick, right? And Simone Missick, shout out, is just such a brilliant human being. But I really have to say, it's hard to pick a favorite because it takes so many beautiful personalities and characters to come in and really bring that. But I think, up there is Tom Hiddleston, Tom Holland, and Jake Gyllenhaal. Amazing interviews because they're just so fun together. Tessa and Bree are hilarious together. If you've not seen that interview. And I got to say, Taryn Edgerton said thick thighs save lives. I've had good
You are blessed.
moments, y'all.
Blessed. I gotta ask this question, a serious comic book culture question. You have an upcoming book entitled "My Superhero Was Black"
with my co-author John Jennings, an amazing, amazing, brilliant man. But yes.
Right. This is for all the people that complain and whine about blatant wokeism and virtue signaling and identity politics. As a consulting editor at Marvel.
I'm sorry. I'm tearing up for them.
Why do you feel that it's necessary to have explicit representation of communities within comics? Because that's what they're talking about, really. Why is there a need to point at something? Why can't it just be those people?
It's interesting. And I'm so excited for this book to come out, and I'm so excited for folks to count how many Black characters were created between 1966 and 1989 at Marvel alone, which I won't tell you. You have to see later. But I say all that to say, storytelling is the most powerful vehicle we have, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, to record who we are as a society, right? Like what we love, what fun means, what our culture finds important, or what our culture makes jokes about, right? Like all of that reflects directly on the type of stories that succeed and are found to be relatable, right? At the end of the day, our stories are better and richer when they represent the world outside our window. And this idea that, one, comics is a medium, the genre of superhero comics is something that is particularly unique in that it personifies what we think of as heroism and who can be a hero. One of the reasons the X-Men is so popular is because it represents the other in so many different ways, and it was a respite for so many different teenagers who didn't feel like they fit in, which is literally every single teenager.
Yes.
Right? Brian Stelfreeze actually kind of said it best, and I'm going to massacre his quote, but it's like, when you look at things like anthologies, and wherever it is, right? Because anthologies are not unique to one different company, right? But when you look at these anthologies, they are small windows, right? But they're important windows. They're important because at the end of the day, it is important for people to be able to see themselves as heroes. It is important. You don't have conversations like the one Martin Luther King Jr. had with Nichelle Nichols about Star Trek without an understanding that being able to see yourself as a whole person within the media that we enjoy is important, because our brains absorb that media. For those who are like, keep your wokeness out of my Star Trek is my favorite example. And I'm like, do you know who Gene Roddenberry is?
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. Let's take a step back. You do know that the world of Star Trek is socialism. They have both no zippers and no money. There's no money in Star Trek. Like, you do know it's like across the board, a pacifist. Like, the only reason they use violence is because they're being attacked. Like, they're a federation of planets. No? All right. Sure. It's so funny because I have spent a substantial amount of time reading, fun things like when they asked Falcon to be part of the Avengers and that whole conversation about affirmative action. And it's just really interesting because you're like, so y'all just want to stay mad, huh?
Man, Angelique, loving your answers, but I did want to discuss your background as a media personality. So what is it about being a media personality that interested you, and how did you break into the profession?
So it's interesting. So I actually grew up acting. I was drama club nerd.
Nice.
I lettered in drama. Just get that out of the way. I have a whole Letterman's jacket. That is
So you're
drama.
literally a drama queen?
I am literally, and I was the drama club president. So yes,
Hell
literally
yes.
the drama queen. I grew up doing poetry. I acted. I did performance poetry for about 10 years. And I loved improv, right? And I really loved stage, and I loved being creative. Me falling into being, oh God, it's so weird to say I'm a media personality. Me falling into that really is what it was. Like, so after 2016, because I'm also a photographer, like I do a lot of other things, but in 2016, a friend asked me if I wanted to do part-time at SiriusXM. I said, yeah. That turned into hosting and moderating stuff and taking improv classes again. And, you know, long story short, I ended up my first like full-time, this is Angelique, your host, and this, my show was Marvel's Voices. And, you know, for those of us who are freelancers, like you kind of parlay that, right? So like that parlayed into Sci-Fi Wire. My first show with them was Geek Explain, which I basically did the editorial, the writing, and like the planning out of that, which, you know, if you're really curious about what that's about, it's on Apple Podcasts. I basically take a nerd thing and put it between 7 and 12 minutes of explaining the entire situation. And then that turned into red carpets, that turned into, you know, E3s and C2E2s and New York Comic Cons. And, you know, it just kind of spiraled from there for me, right? And I love experimenting. And so I had the privilege of having like one of the best besties in the world, Kara Mahorn, the Blurred Girl. Like we did our own live show. And so I really just loved testing the waters, and that worked out like really well because you get to understand the different points of producing, particularly producing a podcast, right? Because at one point in time, I had 4 podcasts going on at the same time. One was a live show that was at Anyone Comics. Shout out to Anyone Comics in New York. One was Geek Explain. One was Marvel's Voices. And then, you know, every once in a while we'd have an after show for Marvel. We did one for Cloak and Dagger. We did one for Marvel's Runaways, and just really understanding that, the different dynamics, because my true love is being able to tell the story. Like I love finding a way to tell the story, particularly if it's the story behind the story. So like after shows
Mike's so happy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think people really sometimes make the creative process so far and so unattainable in their minds. When you talk to folks who are like Bobby Chase, or you talk to folks like Joe Duffy, and they're like, yo, we were just doing the thing we loved. I didn't do this to get rich. I did it because I loved it. Or I answered this want ad in the New York Times.
Right.
Which is dope. I love those stories.
Is there a woman in the Marvel history that people should know about? Or a group of women in Marvel history that people should know about?
So I will say one, I don't fangirl a lot. But based on my mom's job, I grew up around celebrities, not really I'm unless you're Prince or Maya Angelou, rest both their souls. And Nikki Giovanni, who probably was like, y'all need to get this girl away from me. I don't fangirl over a lot of people, but I got the opportunity to interview Bobby Chase. And so Bobby Chase was an editor at Marvel, and in fact, to this day, holds the title for the highest ranking woman at Marvel, because she was the editor-in-chief of the Edge group when Marvel broke into the 5 different groups back in the day. But she edited so much. She has edited so many legends, but 2 particular books came out. One, Alpha Flight, when we got the first out gay character.
Mm-hmm.
And Incredible Hulk 420, which if anybody knows me, I will talk about ad infinitum, because that was your first Black gay character with HIV and AIDS. Now, that character was not created in that book.
Okay.
Character Jim Wilson was created much earlier as a kid and became a friend of the Hulk and continued with the Hulk. this was such an amazing book because in the back of the book, and I'm really excited because for those who are going to be picking up Marvel's Voices Pride, it may be the first time ever this letters pages is going to be printed in it, where Bobby made the decision to allow writers and creators who had been impacted by HIV and AIDS to give statements and to talk about the impact of the AIDS epidemic. It allows for the book and real life to coexist. Yeah, so that is Incredible Hulk 420. You know, I think Bobby Chase, and you know, Glynis Wein, she actually did colors on the original Don McGregor run, right? She worked with Billy Graham. There's just so many amazing women out there who have done these incredible things when you think about Joe Duffy and Louise Simonson and Ann Nesenti, but then also thinking about Nyla Magruder. In the same year, you had, for the first time ever, Black women are writing for Marvel, but in the same year, you have the first three, Nyla being the first, with her digital comic, Year of Marvels, where she had a story with Rocket, Tippy Toe, and Plant Man. And then you get Roxanne Gay and Yona Harvey, right, who are writing for World's Wakanda. You know,
around what year is this? Did they start?
Don't quote me.
Like 2000s, 2000s.
This is 2000s.
So the first Black women to do Marvel started in the 2000s.
Right. To write. Also, like Nyla Magruder, like shout out, like a brilliant editor. She also, illustrator. She also went on and did Marvel Rising, which is a dope little mini that she did, which is very fun because it involves Morgan Le Fay.
Love that. So here we go.
But I want to be clear. While we're talking about this,
okay,
I would be remiss not to talk about Aletha Martinez.
Okay.
Who was drawing for Marvel. And that's why I said to write. Because Aletha Martinez has literally drawn almost every single major character from both houses. Aletha Martinez is that chick.
And around what era are we talking? I don't know. You dropping science right now.
Yeah, right about that.
I'm dropping math science right now.
Marvel Knights?
What?
Aletha Martinez has been around since Marvel Knights.
What? Okay, wow. Let's keep it on comic books right now. Okay, so it doesn't matter what publisher. If you can recommend a story to the Stash fan that fans may be sleeping on.
I Hate Fairyland by Scotty Young.
Oh.
Period. Get all of them. Yo, literally, one of the titles of one of the volumes is Go Fluff Yourself. Come on.
It's a Marvel movie question time. So we want to know.
Here we go.
Yes, so to you, this is only your opinion. What is your top 5 Marvel movies to date?
You gotta give us 5. You got 5 on it. Come on.
Yo, I'm gonna get crucified for this. All right. And I'm only talking more. So I'm only gonna talk Marvel. So I need to be clear. I don't include the Sony movies in this.
Hey,
so don't
we get
come
that.
for me
Exactly.
when I don't mention Spider-Man.
Exactly.
All good.
Great. That's a great disclaimer because that's true. Okay. That's so true.
Okay, because that last movie was amazing. In no particular order.
Okay.
It depends on my mood.
Okay.
But
first one.
Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Oh, yes.
Of course. Yeah. Okay, Winter
Guardians
Soldier.
of the Galaxy 2.
All right.
Okay.
1 is great. 2 rips my heart out and put it back in.
Oh, yes.
Come on.
I'm married bitches. I'm married bitches.
Like just dancing around. Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
Oh, Chris, you're speaking to
I'm
Chris
liking
right
you
now.
more and more as you
speaking to
continue
Chris
to
right
talk.
now.
Love it.
So this is going to be the one that people are not going to agree with me. Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Hey, actually, Doctor Strange is hard. I don't mind that at all.
I like the Marvel Mystic. And I utterly and completely loved Shang-Chi. So that doesn't mean that I don't love the rest of them, and I have not watched the rest of them a crap ton.
But this list is solid. I love this list. Okay, you got Winter Soldier. Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Thor Ragnarok. Chris, we was just debating about this.
True story. I have a Valkyrie tattoo on my arm.
Yes.
Love that movie.
Movie's rad as hell.
Doctor Strange. And this is just in time. We're about to see the second Doctor Strange and Shang-Chi. Now that surprises
You
me.
gave me a huge dragon lion animal
Loved
that
it.
people were riding, and then an actual dragon in a Marvel movie.
This is your top 5. I don't have any argument with this. Chris, you don't have any argument with this.
I could deal with this.
Take us away, Chris.
All right, so Angelique, it's a pleasure having you on today.
Been wonderful.
Honestly, I'm beyond happy to have randomly met you at Collector's Paradise in North Hollywood, right?
Shout out to Ed. Shout out to
Right?
Yo, I am very lucky to have inherited a very good comic book store.
I want to ask you, is there anything we haven't covered that you would like the Stash fam to know about?
I've really been lucky, even as a consulting editor and now as a lead writer for this project out of New Orleans. I got some more stuff coming down the pipe. I'm working on a couple projects and branching out and doing some things. So hopefully I'll have some announcements coming down.
Hell yes.
Yes.
Let's go.
Angelique, it's been a pleasure. You are indeed our spirit animal.
Yes.
You're definitely a part of the Stash fam. We can't wait to have you back. We can't wait to have you back and talk about some other stuff. Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit that like button. We are the Stash Bros. I'm Mike, speaking for Chris and Angelique Roche. We are out. Peace.